bad
Marilyn,
news.
we're ready.
That's the way you get around it. Is you just go, when you get old. What? Yeah, great.
Hi.
Hi.
Wow. Hi, Megan.
What the hell is this? You put me in this plastic Teletubby?
Prove you can be trusted, maybe we'll give you an upgrade.
Everyone's been saying that they love the movie, but I have to say it again, it's a great movie. I really love the film. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Hi, Ivana, how are you?
And I'm teary-eyed looking at your background. Oh my god.
Yeah, you signed up for me a year ago.
Oh my god, I remember you when I was in Mexico City.
Yeah,
I of course remember you now. Thank
it
you
was
so
amazing to meet you, and it's amazing to be talking to you today.
Great to meet you. First of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was watching the movie, I thought like, this has to be done by someone who loves The Matrix. I don't know if that's true, but if it's somehow true, can you tell me how that movie inspired you to create Megan?
It's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was, at the time that came out, that was just kind of like everything I wanted in a movie, you know, at once. I have always been a big fan of Hong Kong action movies and things like that. So when you've got a character like Megan that can do so much, it's a great opportunity to show those skills off in a story like this.
Yeah, even in the credits, maybe I'm imagining things, but like it has like blue and red credits, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Maybe that's not
probably.
part
But
of
it is. It's like, you know, it's top of my list in terms of, you know, favorite film.
I think you find the perfect balance between giving us a very mechanical character, but also someone who's very impressed with humanity, with humane aspects. So I wanted to ask you, how did you find that point where you could balance those two parts of hers?
Totally. I mean, the seed behind my care for Amelia was on the page when I read the script for the first time. I think it has to do with Gerard and Akilah Cooper, the writer, creating something that I found depthful and made me feel protection over her. I wanted to protect her and wanted to give her the chance to live in this world. The balance between the mechanical aspects of her had to do with working with our wonderful movement coach, Luke. We kind of had the chance to ponder on her movements and her body language for around like 1 or 2 weeks before we started filming. And then the emotional aspect was just letting myself discover her nature. I mean, there's such depth to somebody who was brought into this world in a way that is deeply, deeply traumatizing, and somebody who is really trying to understand themselves. And it's just the only way she can understand herself is through violence towards others. It's the only way that she can deal with the world.
So I want you to imagine that you have to teach storytelling to a robot. And for that means you show them Megan too. The robot understands, you know, the plot, the doll, the danger, everything, but suddenly it asks like, why does human care about this movie? So what would you tell it to make it understand like the emotional heart of the film?
I think the emotional heart of both movies is really just parenting and being responsible for other people and creating a world that feels good and inclusive of everybody. That's very broad, obviously, but in the first movie, Gemma is coming to terms with motherhood in a weird form she never saw coming, in both simultaneous children, basically. Like, she has one that's made out of parts and she has one that is her sister's daughter, and she ends up combining them in a way that proves disastrous. But in the second movie, she is realizing that in her efforts to protect every child, she is not paying enough attention to the one that she really owes that protection to. And she also has totally written off her other creation in a way that has left her feeling very discarded and not included and, you know, overlooked in their world. And, you know, I think it's a story about that stewardship. If you bring something into existence, if you're responsible for it, what does that look like? And what is the responsible parenting of these codes and of these programs that are being written into the world? You know, it's not just that we get to create them and then forget about it. We have to create them and then continue to contemplate what that means.
And so, you know, yesterday I was watching this interview with Sam Altman, the creator of OpenAI.
Yes.
And he said something really interesting that really reminded me of the core philosophy of this movie. I'm gonna quote him and then ask you about this. He said, "We should shift the conversation to a recognition that this thing, the AI, is not going to stop, and we have to build a society to get tremendous benefit from this and figure out how to make it safe." So I wanted to ask you, like, what personal or creative impulse led you to this idea of bringing to M3GAN 2 the idea of, of AI morality?
The first film was really an allegory about parenting and how technology was getting in the way of our roles as parents and the time we were spending with our kids. This movie was more an acknowledgement of the fact that AI is everywhere, and suddenly we are faced with the fact that AI is coming, maybe AGI is coming,
yes.
so we need to really we need to really reckon with that. And so I started to think about Gemma's role as a creator of M3GAN, what she designed her to do, and whether or not, in some ways, M3GAN was almost like a first child to Gemma. And as much as she had to learn about parenting to Katie, it's like, here's M3GAN thinking, well, I was your first kid, and I was just trying to please you and do all these things, and as soon as I kind of let you down, you tried to destroy me. So it's like, no wonder she sort of turned against her in the end. So I thought this film was an interesting way to take some of those bigger, deeper themes, albeit in a very fun, absurd movie, but kind of think about our roles as creators to this thing. If we do bring in a new consciousness, we better make sure that we're good parents to it.
Now that you mention violence, I think this movie has beautiful shot choreographies and fights and battle scenes. So I wanted to ask you, when working these scenes, I think they not only need to look badass, but they have to look perfect, because both M3GAN and Emilia are designed to be perfect. So how challenging was it for you to not only fight, but fight with such precision?
That was the exciting aspect for me, is we would create her fundamental aspects of her movement, and then during filming we would be able to play around with it more and add certain movements that were more expanded or more limited. And it all has to do with actually having Luke with us on set, and whenever I would finish a sequence, I would look at him and we would be able to, through actually movement of a hand, we created our own kind of language. I was able to look at him and he would tell me what needs to be changed, he thinks, or what we can implement in order to make her more precise or more fluid.
Also, I think this movie feels like if Tom Cruise and Terminator had a daughter. So I wanted to ask you, how do you balance this super high and top satire, but also bringing actually really fun action scenes with its own identity and personality?
It's funny that it felt like on the set of this film, we were all referring to it as M3GAN Impossible.
Yeah, definitely.
It was, it is that kind of movie. It's a really big movie. I love the Mission Impossible series. I'm a big fan, and I've studied those movies. I have a reverence for these movies, even though it's satirical and we're making a lot of jokes. The movies that are influencing me, I feel an obligation to do the best version of these things I can. So if we're doing an action scene, I'm not goofing off on the fact that it's an action scene. I'm thinking about The Matrix and what's been done before. I'm thinking about a fight scene from Mission Impossible, and naively, hey, how can we top that? And I'm not saying that we do. I think that the actions in those films are amazing, but I'm very proud of the action and the things that we did in this movie. I think it really punches above its weight.
Actually, I think a lot of people are scared of dolls. Many people are scared of dolls. Actually.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. But I wanted to ask you, do you have an irrational fear, something that freaks you out and you don't even understand why?
Well, I'm a catastrophizer with anxiety and intrusive thoughts. So the answer is everything, especially when I became a mom. It's just constantly, I have rational fears of falling and my son falling, but that's not irrational. They get hurt all the time. It sucks. What were you gonna say?
I don't know. My Roomba does scare me a little bit.
Interesting. There's a Roomba in the movie too.
That's true. I didn't even
Pivotal
think of
Roomba
that.
moment in the
I just
movie.
think after they're done mopping and sweeping, and we have two, I feel like they plot something evil after they go to their charging station.
What, to empty their
Yes,
things?
do something to our household.
To
that I'm gonna wake up
they
to.
clean it.
No. Just wait. I'm waiting for the day.
What are their names again? Friday and
Jarvis. Yeah, we have two.
They're probably spying on you.
No, exactly. See, I don't.
Having to understand AI from Amelia's shoes, was there something about this technology that made you change your mind in the way you see it, or Do you have did you learn something else about AI that you didn't know before?
I mean, to be honest, I grew a lot of compassion towards Amelia. And does it mean I grew compassion towards AI? It's a very challenging topic to speak on because I think we have to be very careful with our creation and what we bring into the world. But it did philosophically make me wonder whether or not consciousness is part of a biological process, and also whether or not AI in itself is giving body to the universe, if it makes sense, because it's built through code and numbers and code are very much the language of the universe in certain aspect. So it's giving kind of body to the source, and we have to be very careful in how we implement it into society and into our lives, to not let it let us lose touch with our own humanity.
In the first film, your character were preys, but now they come back as hunters as well. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, how did it feel to come back to Megan's story, but with this kick-ass spirit? And can you share with me one of your most favorite badass moments on the movie? Hardcore.
I don't know if I can say this one.
Just be vague about it.
No, because if I say anything about it, I'll just say the whole thing.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I was really excited when I read the script. I saw that I got to do a bunch of stunts, and I was really excited to see how I was going to do that. A little bit nervous, but it was awesome. There's a few scenes actually where I got to do some things that I've never done before. I also got to learn Aikido, which was awesome. And anytime I did that, I felt very cool. So
you looked cool. You pulled it off. It was very you really committed to it, and your key eyes were very powerful. Yeah, I mean, I think what was cool about the world that we made in the first movie is that we can just move it into this space of an action movie, and we're I'm going with it. Gemma and Katie are now action people, and sure, And there's a very funny moment where you're talking to Cole about what he is or isn't capable of, and he's like, these are gym muscles. And I feel like we all are working, we're a bunch of engineers who find ourselves in the framework of an action movie, and we do our best. But, if you have her in your corner, there's only ever so much that you're going to have to do, because she's pretty good at defending the people she loves.
I think that 5 years ago we could have think of about Megan 2 as something like pure sci-fi. But today it seems like something that could happen maybe in 2-3 years. So as an author, as a creator, bringing this story and somehow anticipating that this could happen, that does make you feel proud, scared, or freaked out as an artist?
All of those things, but the great thing about this movie is it gives you a chance to kind of give a voice to those concerns. And I'm a big believer in regulation and trying to understand this thing so that we can control. And as the theme of the movie is really, it echoes that. It's we need to really put some of these systems in place, not to avoid the fact that AI is coming, but to be prepared for it. Yeah.
Very nice talking to you. It was
awesome. You
I
too.
really love the movie.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, so cool to see you in this role. I really hope that we get to see each other again in person. Thank you.
Hopefully.
She's the best.
She's
You're the
very
best,
good.
Megan.
Time to wrap it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you. Congratulations.
Thank you
Thanks so much for coming. You can kill Gemma, but don't touch Katie.
Megan.